This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN.
Hello and welcome to County Connections, brought to you by the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. I'm Lisa Schaefer, Executive Director for the association. County Connections is designed to help you understand the important services Pennsylvania's 67 counties provide to your communities every day. Today's show focuses on the priorities that counties have selected for 2023, highlighting the issues of most importance to helping our communities and our residents. Today's show focuses on 911 services. Joining me here in the studio today is Tioga County Commissioner Mark Hamilton, who also serves as co-chair of CCAP's Emergency Management and Veterans Affairs Committee. Welcome, Mark.
Hi.
So we're talking about 911 funding being the top priority that counties selected for 2023. Most people don't really think about 911 unless they happen to need to use it, and they probably don't realize everything that counties do to make sure that service is available. So can you give us a quick rundown of what it is that counties do to make sure 911 services are available?
Sure. From the very moment that a person picks up that phone in an emergency situation, our county's systems are involved. We first of all have switching systems on those phones so that to make sure that that call gets routed to the proper direction to our counties that do the dispatching. And then our dispatchers, of course, they pick up the phone, they answer that, they get the information, and then they have to dispatch whatever appropriate response is to your emergency. But that's not the end. They then really manage that communication system to the first responders throughout the entire incident and even record what's going on with timestamps, et cetera. Until those responders are even back into their quarters. But that's only a part of what is happening in the background. We have to, as counties, maintain all of the systems, the communication systems, including towers, antennas, and backup systems such as generators, which costs a lot of money. But our 911 system is really the backbone of the first responders.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot that's involved in that county service, and we're very grateful that that's there to make sure when somebody calls for an emergency that that can be appropriately handled. So why do you think that counties selected this 911 issue as their top priority for 2023?
Well, first of all, we have what they call a sunset law, that the current funding that is available for us through the state will end through the legislation at the end of this year. So that's the main thing, is that we need to keep that funding coming, and that would be the top reason for selecting this. But there's a couple other reasons. That funding really is about 75 to 80% of what it costs us to run those operations. Without that, our counties would be devastated. And with the newer technologies, such as Next Gen 911 and so on, we're going to have a greater cost. So that too factored into this decision.
So it sounds to me like 911 has really been changing a lot over the last couple of years. You mentioned new technologies and Next Gen 911, all the different ways people expect to communicate. That might be one of the challenges facing 911, but are there other challenges that counties are facing as they try to keep the 911 systems running smoothly? Yeah,
oddly enough, one of our biggest challenges right now is staffing, much like everybody else. Our dispatchers are a rare commodity these days, as well as the other challenge. Again, I already mentioned is the new technology and the end of life to a lot of the equipment that has been purchased over the years, and the costs involved there. Those are the two challenges.
So much like your laptop or your phone, you might buy something new, but in a couple of years, new technology comes along and you need to keep on maintaining and replacing that. That adds to the cost of the system.
Yeah, yes.
Are there any improvements that we can make? I know when we talked, you said the law is going to sunset, needs to be reauthorized. When we reauthorized the law in 2015, we made a number of improvements to help counties have efficiencies and things like that. What else could we be doing to help make improvements to the system?
Well, right now, I think the biggest thing is the next gen 911 that I mentioned that is coming online here. There's some real advantages to that. We can geolocate people, but with
and can you just tell us what that means?
Well, it means that when a person calls in, we can tell within probably inches of where they are and where their emergency is. And but with the new technology that's coming on board, we not only can tell where they're at, it's going to be to the point where we can tell elevations as well of people. So if you're on the bottom floor of a 20-story hotel, or if you're on the 20th floor, they'll be able to locate you better. Auto switching means that if your call gets routed to the wrong call center, with the new technology, we're going to be able to automatically switch that to the right call center through something that's called the Emergency Services Internet system that's being built out currently. But the main thing, I think, is any device, anytime, anywhere, which basically means, I'll give you a good example. If there's a car accident, for example, we're going to be able to soon take video. If you have a cell phone and you start video or a picture of that accident, that dispatcher can immediately know exactly what to dispatch, what resources are needed. But if you have an intruder in your home or you have a domestic situation going on, that person's going to be able to click that phone, set it down, and that whole thing could be transmitted, the whole event could be transmitted directly to the dispatcher. And again, you can imagine the advantages that are going to be able to be derived from that.
So, you mentioned a couple of these projects that counties are working on, they're taking initiative. Are there other projects that counties may be able to do, looking at ways they can share resources and things like that to help improve the system?
Some of the resources that we're working together on are other people that we're working with are PEMA, the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association, and our state legislatures. I think we've got a real good three-legged stool there between our association and those two entities. And those are the resources that we're pooling together right now, working on these issues.
And speaking of that and that collaboration, the way things work together, the 2015 law created, as I understand, a 911 advisory board that brings together all of those stakeholders to talk about those issues, talk about the new technology that's needed, to talk about the funding structure and those sorts of things. Would you describe that as being one of these collaborative efforts that you're talking about, that three-legged stool?
Very much so. Communication is a must. And not only in the emergency world, but outside of the emergency world, and collaboration, communication, we're all working together on the same page here.
So, we talked about, the law needs to be reauthorized by the end of this year. First, let's talk about, if we don't reauthorize that law, if something were to get hung up, what would happen?
Well, I think, it would be really easy. Just imagine if your house was on fire and you made a phone call and nobody answered.
That would be a very scary situation.
Or worse yet, what if one of your loved ones is on the floor with a heart attack and you call and nobody answers? Lives are really in the balance here.
I think that's a really critical point to make as we talk about what this means to our communities. As we kind of started out saying, you know, a lot of these issues, when you think about 911, you don't think about it every day, but it really is one of the services that counties have that everyone can access and expects to be there. So as we kind of conclude on this particular issue, when you talk to the residents of Pennsylvania who might not be aware of what's going on with 911 these days, what's your message to them?
Well, I think my message is, first of all, when you look at that cell phone bill or that device bill and you see that small little tax or small little fee on there, think of the synergy that small little fee creates with creating this huge, powerful system to keep us safe as we can be in times of emergencies.
So really a small investment goes a long way to being available to all the people of Pennsylvania.
Absolutely, it really does. And you know, the other thing that I would say is if you're bored with your career, or if you're looking for a career, we need you in the emergency services. And it's a really good feeling to go home at the end of the day knowing that you may have helped one of your neighbors or your friends.
Well, thank you to Mark for helping us understand county's top priority 911 funding and the need for reauthorization of the state statute. When we return, we'll learn more about county's priorities as they relate to broadband expansion. Stay tuned.
PCN offers Pennsylvania organizations, business, and associations the opportunity to have their message telecast statewide. Fusion on PCN is a platform for you to reach out to all of Pennsylvania using our statewide cable network and online streaming. You produce the content with your message and PCN delivers it statewide. Fusion is a partnership that helps expand your reach and meet objectives through an alliance with PCN. Go to pcntv.com/fusion for more information.
Welcome back to County Connections, brought to you by the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. We're here today talking about county's 2023 county priorities. In this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about county's priority on broadband expansion. And here to talk about that is Mifflin County Commissioner Rob Postal, who serves as CCAP's chair of the Community and Economic Development Committee. Welcome, Rob.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
So we're going to talk a little bit about broadband expansion, which I know everybody's been hearing about and everybody kind of understands the need around that. But what have we been learning about broadband access in Pennsylvania over the past year?
Well, we're learning that there are still a lot of gaps. And our priority is for every Pennsylvanian to have the access to internet, no matter where they live, no matter what their earnings are. But so we've learned that there are still a lot of gaps, and the county commissioners are getting a lot of calls. So as long as there are gaps, we're going to have to address this.
You know, certainly we all want internet access so we can go online and play games and things like that, but there's a lot of other reasons broadband is important to our daily lives. What kind of things do you hear from your residents?
Broadband has to be as ubiquitous as electricity. I mean, it's a way of life now. And what has happened is during the pandemic, it's really accelerated and exacerbated some of the gaps that I just referred to. Not only residents, but our businesses, our companies, and our children, for that matter. So that's what we're hearing. We're hearing from parents that their children, the students, don't have access where they live. We're hearing from some of our companies and entrepreneurs that they would like to live in certain areas with a certain lifestyle, but they can't because they need to be in, let's say, more urban areas. And so that's what we're hearing, and we're taking these to heart. There's really not a lot of that county commissioners can actually implement, but we are looking for partnerships, and we are listening to our constituents.
So every year counties choose their priorities for the coming year, and broadband has been on the list for many, many years. Why would counties choose to have it on the list again this year?
Because we still have a lot to do, and you're absolutely right. It's been on our list for at least 3 years that I could remember. And counties have always tried to respond to this, but as I said before, the pandemic really accelerated this. And so it's going to be on our list until we could accomplish what our goal is. And it's a lofty goal. Our goal is for every Pennsylvanian to have access to affordable internet, no matter where they live and what their income status is. And again, it's very lofty, but we're going to continue to have this, I am sure, in years to come until we finish this.
So we're talking about, some things that might need to be happening. Certainly funding is one of those that could be helpful to making sure that that access is increased. A lot has been made about these federal broadband dollars that are coming to Pennsylvania. So what impact will those dollars be able to have?
The funding is unprecedented. I mean, there are billions of dollars that are going to be coming to Pennsylvania. We have to make sure that it's used efficiently and not just for every project. And that's where maybe the counties can come in and be a partner, because we know what our neighborhoods are, we know what our localities are, we know the municipalities. We get a lot of calls, as I said before, from our citizens or residents, but it doesn't help if we just throw money at the problem. So strategic planning needs to be done. We have to have a seat at the table to talk about this with the people in the state. Funding, yes, is part of the problem, but not the entire solution. Because again, there's billions of dollars that will be coming. We want to make sure it's used as best and efficiently as we could.
And certainly counties haven't been sitting around just waiting for this funding. They've been doing work already to prepare for and even invest some federal dollars in these projects. So how have counties been preparing for this moment? What have they been doing to this point regarding broadband development?
Well, for our county, even before the pandemic and before a lot of this money started to flow, we did respond to a lot of requests by setting up an internet committee. And then, of course, the pandemic came with funds that, again, accelerated some of these needs and gaps, and it actually showed us that if you want telehealth, you're going to need internet. If you want remote learning, you need internet. If there's e-commerce involved, you need internet. So that really brought it to the table. But there are counties that are taking a more active role. Some of the larger counties in Pennsylvania are actually implementing and perhaps even owning some of the infrastructure. My particular county is taking the strategy that we will prefer to partner. We've used some of our CARES money, our COVID money, our American Rescue Plan money to incentivize some of the projects and the programs that are out there. So we're trying to address really every neighborhood, but as I said before, we're trying to be efficient and economical about where we are spending the money.
In addition to funding, what other help does your county or do other counties need to help bridge that digital divide going forward? We have
some relationships with, for example, the utilities and the infrastructure. One thing that I think counties could do, and it's something that we're exploring and looking at, is we have a county water authority, for example, and we support that. They're supported with some federal money and state money. And where the infrastructure is being expanded, we are encouraging and actually have a couple of projects with the Water Authority to put in conduit so that conduit can be used for the fiber later on. Even if it's not there now, we'll pay for it now because it's a lot cheaper to do it now. And there are issues with some utility poles, for example, and we don't want to get into a lot of the weeds here, but that's a big issue. So there are easements, perhaps, that the county can secure when this infrastructure is being constructed. We have bridges, so we'll put conduit on the bridges. And again, it's not because the fiber is there, but it could be in the future. And also, we have, and a lot of counties have this, Lisa, 911 towers. So we have space on the towers for the wireless technologies. We found out that wireless is very important because cable is expensive, And for the next 5, maybe even longer, I think the solution to get some of our outlying neighborhoods and in rural areas has to be wireless. And so we're working closely with some wireless companies also.
So when you hear residents say, when am I getting broadband? Is it coming next week? Clearly everything that you're telling us, there's a lot that goes into planning for and making sure that infrastructure can be there to get that service out to all of our residents.
And that's one thing that we've learned. We've learned that there's a lot of engineering and design that needs to be done, particularly with the fiber. Wireless is a lot easier, it's my understanding, and I've been told, because you have a tower, you have some dishes that you put in, and as long as the line of sight is available, then you could have internet. The one issue that, however, is also the affordability, and so we have to understand that just because there is a connection, it may not be affordable. So one thing that we're doing is again, subsidizing some of that initial investment, and so the return on investment could be a little less from the internet service provider than really what it could be. But it is complicated, particularly when you get into the cable, and that's what we tell people. We still get calls, but we encourage that. We really do encourage the calls. We also then defer some of our calls to our state officials, but we do need information. So what we do is encourage people to let us know so we can let others know, because we need to just continue this. It's not a short-term solution, but again, the money is going to flow and we have to be prepared to use it, but use it efficiently, and I think that we're well on the way toward that.
So, you get those calls from those who don't have good broadband access. In addition to explaining to them and getting that information from them, what's your message to them?
Well, the message is, again, keep calling. Work with the school districts, which we do, because to attain this goal, and again, it's a very lofty goal for every Pennsylvanian to be connected to the internet, no matter what your geography or what your income status, and we won't be satisfied until that happens. But the message is we know that it's needed. So you don't have to convince us. We know that the funds are there. It's sometimes you have to be patient, but we know that the technology will change, and we're helping these people. And until nobody calls anymore, we will continue to help our constituents.
Well, it sounds like we have a great opportunity here to work on moving toward this goal of achieving broadband access for everyone. So thank you to Rob for helping us understand county's priority on broadband expansion here today. We're going to take one last quick break, and then when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about what counties do and how all these priorities tie together to help our residents.
Thank you for this opportunity.
PCN is getting information for the 2023 PIAA Competitive Spirit Championships. Watch teams from across Pennsylvania give it their all to prove who's on top. You'll flip over PCN's coverage of the 2023 PIAA Competitive Spirit Championships on cable and streaming February 17 at 7 p.m. Visit PCNTV.com for information and schedule updates. PCN is Pennsylvania Sports.
Welcome back to County Connections, where we've been talking about county's 2023 priorities. Joining me in the studio now is CCAP President and Venango County Commissioner Chip Abramovic. Chip, as I said, we've been talking about these priorities, particularly 911 and broadband, but there's so many ways that counties provide services to our residents every day. And unless you have a chance to interact with the county, you probably don't realize everything that counties do. So can you tell us just a little bit about how county government overall impacts daily life?
Thank you, Lisa. So county government is basically every part of our residents' lives, whether it's housing, whether it's mental health needs, whether it's 911 services, whether it's a county airport, whether it's a county park, whether it's your courts, whether it's your jail. There's a lot of things that our residents don't know that county government touches them day to day. And that's what the importance is of us at CCAP and our entity, to start to push the county message and let people know what we do. A lot of what we do isn't seen or heard, but we're always there to help people in need and to help move our counties forward.
And counties are one of our local governments. They're part of our intergovernmental system. How do we work with the state and federal governments to make all of that happen?
So we work with our state and federal governments, let them know what our needs are. Because when the state and federal government enacts legislation, it usually comes down to counties to implement those actions that they legislate on, dealing with government and local government especially. So we're the boots on the ground for the federal and state legislature that have an opportunity to give them feedback on the decisions they make and how they impact us and our residents directly that we're elected to represent.
So it's really important that counties and all of you who work at the county level have a seat at the table as part of those discussions to make sure that we're being as effective and efficient as possible with our resources.
Yes, you're correct. And there's a lot of opportunities that we have, and don't want to get into examples of that, but a lot of things affect counties that we sometimes do not get a say in fully, and it gets legislated upon without sometimes the county's opportunity. And that's why the County Commissioners Association is such a great voice to help our counties get to those that need to hear what we need.
Speaking of the association, their mission is to advocate as the unifying voice for all Pennsylvania counties and to provide leadership and support for excellence in county government. What does that mean to you? How does that translate for counties as far as what the association does for you?
It means a lot to me, and that's one of the reasons why I strive to be in a leadership role with the Commissioners Association, because the value of our state association has given my county and myself opportunities that I wouldn't have elsewhere had. I would have had to research information, I would have had to find things, but working collaboratively with counties across Pennsylvania helps you understand what has already been done. So you're not creating a wheel, you're looking at other counties and how they implement things to help your own county. But also from the Commissioners Association standpoint as well, we advocate on the biggest issues collectively across counties that we need. And also those, our top priorities that we're talking about, our 6 priorities, those are the biggest needs for all 67 counties. And how we come together bipartisan to come up with those priorities also helps our residents locally. But that group and that association and the camaraderie and the networking truly helps come a collective voice for all of 67 counties.
So even though our 67 counties are different from one another, from Erie to Monroe to Philadelphia, Dauphin, York, Greene County, Venango County, there's a lot of similarity in the issues that you face and the way that you're trying to help your residents.
Yes, so I'll touch on one of our priorities of mental health in our county jails. Our county jail might hold 180 people at max capacity, and Allegheny County might have 2,400 people at their max capacity. We still have the same issues of mental health in there. And how are we addressing it locally? And how is Allegheny County addressing it locally? Or how is Berks doing it? Or how is Tioga doing it? We all still have the same issue. The size and scale might be different, but the root cause of each issue is spread amongst each county, and we each have those individually as well.
And working together, as you mentioned, networking and collaborating, you can develop those solutions that will best serve the residents in each of your individual counties.
Yes, and the one big thing that's really nice about our organization is we truly come together for the benefit of those that we represent and our constituents, because that's what matters at the end of the day, and that's why our organization is strong and very collective, that we work together for those purposes.
Well, thank you, Chip, 2023 CCAP President. Thank you to all of our guests on our show today, and thank you for watching County Connections, brought to you here today by the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. For more information, please visit our website at www.pacounties.org.
This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN. To get your program on PCN Fusion and for more information, contact info@pcntv.com.